I gotta remember to turn the volume back up. Hello, everybody. Hello. How's everyone doing today? Yes, I was practicing before the stream. Don't you judge me. I know it's a stupid game, but I was practicing. Okay? Okay? I was practicing. And no one gets to judge me for that because practicing is good. Practicing's a good thing that smart boys do. Alright? If you're not practicing, you know what's happening? You're falling behind. That's what's happening. You don't want to fall behind. You don't want to go behind the curve. So you practice. And the first thing that I learned is that I need to take this opening couple of minutes way more seriously. Look at this. Look how good we're doing already. We're being super serious, boys. Look at that. Look at that go. Let's see, we'll put those over here. Hello, Anna. Yes, fruit. We're being very serious today. I was practicing and everything. Gonna put that right there, actually. Why does it give me so many cherries? Okay. Alright, we'll do it like... No! They came between us. They explode? Wait, does that just end your game? Like they just boom? That's unsettling. Oh, they just disappear. Okay, gotcha. It's not a physics thing. It is what I theorized the other night, which is that they just leave you so that you may continue playing. Oh, I see. Okay. It's even better than I thought it was. That's good to know. Well, alright. So how are you doing, Anna? Are you having a good day? How's every little thing? You're making pho while high on cough medicine? Girl, that is a mood. I also easily overdose on cough medicines. Did you see that study the other day, by the way? That showed that the active ingredient in over-the-counter cough medicines is fake? It doesn't work at all. This is wild. It doesn't work. It is a scam. At least in America. If you're in America, then you're being scammed. So apparently what happened is back in the day, they were like, oh, this active ingredient that people use to suppress their coughs, I can't pronounce it, but it's extremely addictive. We can't let people just have this whenever, and they can use it for meth, which is even worse. So what we're going to do is we're going to replace it with this thing that we think is just as effective. But we're not going to bother testing it, because it'll probably be fine. Well, someone finally went back and tested it, and it wasn't fine. It was, in fact, very not fine. It doesn't work at all. So all the cough medicine does is make you crazy. That's all it does. It does nothing for your cough. Be outraged with me. Be outraged about the lack of working cough medicine in the United States, because someone was like, oh, we'll just do a thing. The pharmaceuticals, they be wildin'. That's all I gotta say about that. Why am I... Why am I hearing static? Where's static? What is that ear rape? Game, are you okay? I do. I'm just that hot. It's my capture card doing it. I don't know why. I think I'm gonna have to unplug it real quick. Weird. That should fix it, hopefully. Yeah, just too much fruity goodness. I'm the captain and the crunch, I guess. All right, we're back and it's working again. I guess so. I have no idea what that was. Just needed to get restarted, I guess. Which is weird because I just plugged it in like a half hour ago to test it. But I mean, pop off, I guess. Well, you know, the cough medicine was really the friends we made along the way. Oh, you want to get even more upset? You want to get even more upset? It turns out that, like, the drugs they use for depression don't work how we thought they did. So we don't know how they work at all. For some people they work, and for some people we don't. They don't, and we don't know which is which or why. I think they're called SSRIs. So we have no idea how these things work, and we've been prescribing them to everyone. And if that's not enough to make you just a little bit hate all doctors, I don't know what is. I'm like half joking. Yeah, it's craziness. Which is like, you know, we had a theory and we thought it would work, and it turns out it doesn't work at all the way we thought it did, which, you know, is fine, but then we're just not changing how we're doing anything, right? Like, wouldn't that be the signal to start, you know, changing how we're prescribing stuff or something? Like, oh, maybe we don't give these to everyone if they, you know, just come in. Like, they've been throwing these things out like well, they are pills. What am I thinking of? But what's the thing that pills are often compared to? That's the thing I'm thinking of. Someone help me. I can't think of the thing. What's the thing? I'm dead serious. I'm blanking on this thing. Just had no way to test? That makes sense. Like, here's my thing. Candy. Yes, candy. They were giving them out like candy. I don't know. My thing, I guess, is if we don't know how something's working, maybe we don't give it to millions of people. I'm gonna be the crazy guy and say that. I know, terribly wild opinion there, but maybe we just do a little bit of checking first. The way I'm playing this is stressing you. It's stressing me out. Yeah, the cough medicines are just pure placebo. Yeah, I'm not saying like they don't work for a lot of people. Like, SSRIs obviously work for a lot of people, but my question is, how exactly? And if we can't say how, should we really be just throwing them around? I'm not a doctor, but my brother is a doctor, so that gives me the authority to speak on these things, you understand. Cough medicine tastes so gross, it really does. And it doesn't even work. You know what cough medicine worked? Cocaine. Cocaine got rid of your cough. Cocaine got rid of your cough every single time. That wasn't placebo at all. It got rid of your cough, and it made the kids easier to work with. Cocaine. It's the better cough medicine. And it made you lose weight. Cocaine works, people. Codeine, not cocaine. Well, cocaine will get rid of your cough too, Anna. It'll do the same. It'll do the trick. No, I am not speaking from experience. You guys know me. I'm always the one saying the most out-of-pocket thing at any given opportunity, because that's how I do wackadoo. That's how I be. Hey Sarah, hi. I didn't see you on Minecraft earlier, but I assume you were there. Which, speaking of Minecraft, I finally got Minecraft VR working, because I've got that VR headset like on Friday, and I was just setting it up over the weekend. And you know what the craziest part about that is? The one time I didn't need to set up anything at all and it just worked was with the YouTuber mod pack that you made. I don't know what that means, except that you probably made a really good mod pack, so congratulations on that. Good job. It works perfectly with every mod there, as far as I can tell. And it's so fun, man. Like, I got so much exercise this weekend from different VR things. It's wild. It's my first time ever really getting to try it out for an elongated period of time, and it is just as fun as I always hoped it would be. VR is just crazy. Like, especially in Minecraft, because I could just hit the block, and I hit the block, and it does the thing. And I can row the boat, and it rows the boat. Like, it's craziness. That is absolutely a tomato. I have several tomatoes in my fridge. I am very sure that that is a tomato. Ooh! Oh, look at what we did. That's good. It's a tomato in my heart, you know? Tomatoes are fruits, too. Are you saying a tomato can't be in a fruit game? That seems a little racist against tomatoes, I gotta say. I don't know, I've been keeping apples in my fridge. Man, did I have some weird spaghetti tonight, let me tell you. Because I made that from scratch, and whew, it almost tasted like applesauce, but then I was like, no, these are obviously tomatoes. That's just, I must be sick or something, and my taste buds are lying to me. I didn't make an applesauce for my spaghetti. What do you, no, of course not. That would be silly. I'm like 20% sure that you can be racist against a tomato by thinking it's not a fruit. I'm like 20% sure that's real. In fact, I will cancel you over it. Just saying. Because what did tomatoes ever do to you? Cyber, what did they do to you? That's all I'm asking. Tomatoes are not nasty. You take that back. You take that back right now. Tomatoes are amazing. My diet, I will have you know, is 50% tomato and 50% Italian other things. The juice is the best part of the tomato. Thank you, Anna. I'm not Italian, I'm Italian adjacent, which is to say Appalachian, which is to say Scottish and German, but we stole all of our good cooking from the Italians, which is to say don't diss tomatoes. Thank you, Null. You're also a sane person. I do just talk. That is, in fact, the entire point of streaming. It is just talking, I'll have you know. I hope that wasn't shocking for you. I hope that was not like a revelation that you were sitting on for a rainy day. Then turn the game off. You know full well that I could just talk without a game. We both know this. You know this in your heart, Syra. Come on. Don't tempt me. Okay, do it? Bet. Bet. We're just talking. Bet. Bet. I will call that bluff every day of the week and twice on Sunday. So I will do it again tonight. Okay, we're going back. Bye. Bye, Sarah. Thank you for stopping by. You guys are great. I am not stressing you out with the gameplay, Reverie. I swear I'm not. You're just making fun of me not doing well. You're not physically stressed out by this. Oh, speaking of Tetris but bad, I saw a game the other day that a VTuber was playing that I really want to find and play, but I forgot the name of it. It's a game where the Tetris blocks, after you place them, they all turn into sand. It's crazy. So, like, it's just piles of colored sand, and whenever the colored sand reaches from one side to the other... Yeah, you've seen it. Okay. Yeah, and the little raccoon girl that plays it. And she goes... She does a big squee every time she gets a line, and it's adorable. I would collab with her. Sandtrix? Okay. I've got a list of people that are like my dream collabs that I think we would just vibe really well together on stream as a chaotic duo that just says whatever we think, you know? Because, like, you guys might have noticed, I'm not big on collabs, really. I want to be really picky about my collabs. Not that you guys aren't great. But mostly because it's very easy to get a bad collab where, you know, just because you're friends doesn't mean you have good on-stream chemistry. I think a really famous example of this is, and not to dunk on anyone, but I'm thinking of that clip of Fillion, the Bad Dragon Fillion clip, if you guys know what I'm talking about. Exactly, you get it. Where, like, I'm pretty sure everyone was in on the joke in that clip with Fillion, but if everyone wasn't in on the joke there, that could have gone extremely poorly. Yeah, vibing in voice chat is really important before you go on stream. Especially, I think, for me, because I have a very specific energy that not a lot of people could match. Like, when I was in my planning phase, I almost was just like a fairy changeling thing, because I do have a very specific, I will make everyone insane energy. And if you can't match that, it's going to get really rough really fast. And it's going to be really tiring for the other person. That's part of it. But also, it won't be good interaction, you know? Also, if someone's not ready to deal with me, that's one of the cruelest things I could do, is force you to deal with me for multiple hours. That would be so incredibly cruel of me. McTeller collab with me. Yeah, no, I'm one of those insanely hyper people, Reverie. That's exactly it. Some chaotic energies is just someone being very hyper. I mean, you were here for the drawing stream the other night, right? Where I broke down into madness. You guys, for people who weren't there, I was doing a doodling stream, and my plan before stream, because I try to have a plan, was I was going to be playing with geometric shapes and repeating patterns, because I just find myself naturally fascinated with really cool geometric shapes and repeating patterns. So that was my plan going into it. And then Syra showed up and suggested that I try drawing her, and I was like, you know what, that sounds fun. Not like I'm gonna draw everybody, but her specific design I think could be fun. And then within 50 minutes, I am a hysterical mess, making myself nearly incomprehensible by how much I am enjoying my own stupidity. That will take a very specific kind of person to make a good collab with. I am intensely aware of my limitations as a person. The drawings were from a fever dream? Welcome to my brain. Like, you know, a lot of people will joke and like, my brain's a fever dream. I'm not like other people. No, I legitimately have some problems in my imaginative life. Like, my rich inner imaginative life is a mess, okay? You want to put me under glass? I almost misread that, and I was about to say sign me up. See, that's one of those moments where I'm just talking. I'm just saying things. Your personal collection? I'm flattered. And flattened, I suppose. But yeah, I've got a list that I'm keeping of people I would love to collab with that I think would match my energy really well and would actually make for a really good time for the viewer and for us, right? Because that's the two important things there. I'm like a butterfly? Oh, that's so sweet. Most of the time I get described to like a beetle or something. You have that but for cover songs? Oh my gosh, yes. I really want to get into cover songs, but I'm an audio engineer, not a musician at all. I can't read sheet music, I can't play for shit. The most I can do is pluck my little harp, and it goes, and it makes pretty noises, and that's all I can do. And I would love to be able to collab with someone who could take care of the actual musician part, so I could just sing and it come out decently. And I think that would be really cool. Very jazzy. Oh yeah. Oh, I feel that. I love me some jazz. I used to be a swing dancer of how do I say this without overhyping myself? Of oh gosh. I'll just say what happened. I placed, not first, but I did place a high enough ranking to be notable in some local tourneys back home. That was back in college, and it was a very small pool, and I can bury that under grains of salt. But I love me some jazz, man. I love me some jazz. Opera or 30s jazz. See, I never really vibed with opera, but I have I can do a very opera voice. Like I can get that like rich tone going, I guess you say. I'm not sure, because I'm not a musician, how to describe these things. But I can do like a kind of an opera voice. Opera's really cool though. I do vibe with it nowadays. Just when I was at one point, someone had tried to encourage me to actually become a musician, and it just never panned out for me, partially because I can't think like that. Like, I can't think multiple sounds becoming brand new sound that is also really cool. Like, you know, those process videos of people making music, and they're doing the drum loops, and then they're adding in the other instruments and stuff, and it's really, really cool. I can't think like that at all. I think in a very specific way, which is words. I think in words. Like, the visual aspects of streaming, I'm not very good at all. Everything good about this is other people. Like, my model, that's all Zan. I could not, you know, if I had not found her specifically, I would not have a good model. Composing is such a different skill set. See, I don't know. I can't even think in that mindset enough to understand that as a different skill set, if that makes sense. Like, the most I know about music is how to kind of hold a note. But even then, I'm not really good at that. Like, I'm better than a lot of people, apparently, from what I'm told. But I don't want to put too much stock in that because I don't want to sound conceited. But apparently a lot of people struggle with the holding a note part. So if you can hold a note for more than 5 seconds, people think you're decent. Like, I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of those things in my life where I am probably actually pretty skilled at something, but I don't want to believe it because I don't know what I do with that information, right? Like, let's say I actually have like a latent, super great talent with music that everyone but me was kind of aware of my entire life, and I never really acted on it because I just didn't think that people were being serious. I thought people were making fun of me. Well, what do I do with that information then when I figure that out? Because I feel like I would be obligated to do something with that information, but I have no idea what that obligation would lead to. And that's a little bit scary for me, I think. If that makes sense at all. I don't know that I'm making sense right now. Songwriting is its own thing too. Very believable. I was actually not a terrible poet back in the day. I went to one of those poet clubs that, you know, they did all the snapping and stuff. And see, that's another one. That's another thing where it's like, I don't actually think I'm that talented, but people kept telling me I was. Like, so one thing this club would do is, you know, like once a month at the meeting, they would just have an impromptu poetry write, where you would just write poetry in like 30 minutes and you'd show it off to everyone else on a given topic or something. And you'd show it off to everyone else, and then, you know, everyone would give you feedback and stuff. So I thought, oh, that's fun. I'll go on one of those nights. I'll try that. So I do, and I do. And it was about like a road at midnight or something. And I wrote something about how a road at midnight speaks to the calm and to the death and all these kinds of things. It was a short poem, like 4 stanzas maybe. And then we get to the presentation part, and I present it. And everyone goes stark raving mad for it. And I'm just sitting here like, I came up with this with no forethought, with really no effort put into it. I was just there because there was a cute girl. And everyone's going apeshit for this, and I don't know what to do with that information. Like, am I actually apparently good at poetry? And if I am, where do I go from there, right? So I just took it as, you know, college kids not understanding what good poetry was, or maybe they were just being super nice and hyping me up or something like that. But maybe I'm actually a good poet, and I just didn't want to believe it because I don't know what to do with that. You can get good at anything, so get good at what you like to do. I'm not sure that's true, actually. I'm not sure that's true, because for a lot of people, there are some things that they'll just never be able to get good at, no matter what they do. Some people are imbued with a natural talent or a proclivity towards certain things, and some people very much aren't. And that's not an insult to anyone who may or may not be experiencing that. And it is most definitely not a sin, but it is just kind of the reality of the situation where you have to go, oh, I may not ever actually be good at this thing I want to be good at. You kind of need to shift gears at some point, you know. Not everyone's passion can be their talent, kind of an idea. Well, like, I think myself and my brothers are a good explainer for what I'm saying here. So I've got a brother who's a doctor. I've got a brother who is in politics. He handles politicians for a living. I am in the media biz. I have a brother who's going into technology, and I have a brother who is a car mechanic, a very successful car mechanic back home. And so we all had the same upbringing. We were all homeschooled, so, you know, we were all taught the same things by our parents, but we all turned out pretty radically different. You know, there is a level where there is something that is natural to each person. Not to say that that couldn't be overcome if you really wanted to overcome that, but there is something that is natural to each person that can't be taught, I guess you could say. You know, not to say that it's a hard and fast rule, not at all. And maybe I'm overstating the case a little bit. But there are differences to each person. And I don't think that's bad at all. In fact, I think that's very good. You know, if we were all exactly the same, I'm sure you've heard the argument, things would be very dull. You know, if everyone could actually become as good as they wanted to at everything, then I think we would actually be reaching into an area where everyone becomes an interchangeable widget. You know, it's kind of the syndrome line of thought. When everybody's super, no one will be. And people obviously aren't interchangeable widgets, so there has to be a line between widgetry and everyone being able to learn something, right? Can everybody learn? Absolutely. Everybody can learn. Can everybody get to the same place? Obviously not. So there's a line in between there that does need to be explained, I guess you could say. I don't know. I'm not sure I'm making sense anymore. Ooh, stuff is happening. You may need to change how you do it, but you can get good. Maybe not savant good, but good. But how you approach it will always be different. No one has your internal experience. See, I think there are some things where some people just can't get good at a thing. I really do think that. Like, I know I could never get good at doctoring. It's just not something I can do. Now, I could give you the physical reasons. I have shaky hands, and I don't have quite really the focus to be at an operating table for multiple hours. But at the end of the day, it's something a bit more deep than that. It's that I can't think in those terms, where I'm not able to look at a series of muscle and sinew and understand what's happening there. No matter how many books I read or how many classes I take, I'm just not one of those people. And there was some attempts made there. My brother, when we were in college, he talks in his sleep a lot. And what he would do is he would recite his textbooks in his sleep, his doctoring textbooks. So like, I have a fairly good medical education, as much as I downplay it. I just don't understand it at all. And he is an actual genius. Like, he is a savant kind of doctor. He is at that level. And part of that was learning on his part. You know, a lot of that is learning. That's not something you naturally know, how to heal people. But a lot of it was just him understanding material in a way that a lot of his classmates couldn't understand the material. Like, I was friends with a lot of his friends, and I could see them struggling with the same material, and a lot of them never got it. A lot of them ended up dropping out of the program. Struggling with the same material, he got really effortlessly. And that was when I started thinking, oh, there's actually something more here than just he's really good at studying. You know, there is a certain intangible here where he is a doctor in a way that other people aren't. Not to say that's good or bad, but just he is a doctor. It's obviously what he was born to do. See, to me, that's more about, would you want to fight uphill for it? You could get there, but would you want to? Because it's going to be harder for some people, but you want to get there, so you will get there. Humans are stubborn like that. I mostly agree with that sentiment, with the proviso that everyone has a different upper limit. Let's put this in anime terms. Let's put this in Dragon Ball Z terms, alright? Let's talk Goku and Vegeta. Goku has the savant of power. He understands power and fighting inherently, and he always power scales. Vegeta actually doesn't have that. So he's constantly trying to catch up to Goku because this is the thing he wants, when in reality, Vegeta has a savantism towards leadership, which is funny because he's the prince of nothing. You know, that's kind of one of the ironies of his character. He is a great leader, but he can't lead anything because he doesn't have anything. It's one of the tragedies of Vegeta. Vegeta is hosted by his own petard a little bit, but a lot of the times, like especially during the Universe arc, the Universe Tournament arc, he was pushing Goku to be a better and better version of himself, like a leader would for someone he was commanding in like an army or something. Vegeta has that natural ability to push Goku further, and he's always struggling to keep up, and to a certain point he can, But when Goku hits Ultra Instinct or Super Saiyan 3 or 4, Vegeta just doesn't have a way to catch up to that. His upper limit was hit a couple of eras ago in Dragon Ball. I think that's kind of how people are. You can get extremely good at something, but unless you have that natural intangible, you're never going to be... I shouldn't say never, but it will be extremely difficult for you to get to the same peak as someone who does have that intangible. And that's not a bad thing. We're not widgets, we're individuals, and exactly, Null, and sometimes we're Krillin. We're weak little guys with really hot wives. You get it, man. Weak little guys with really hot wives. I just realized that's what I said. Oh my gosh. Oh, did my captions break? Captions, are you okay? Captions, speak to me. I think the captions broke. I don't know how to fix that. Captions? Captions. Captions, talk to me! Oh, no, the captions broke. Rip. Rip captions. Alright. We're done. We're done with the watermelon game. Dragon Ball was my first anime too. Dragon Ball will always hold a special place in my heart as being that weird thing that I watched on Adult Swim at like 2 in the morning. You guys know what I'm talking about. Like, you know, the big three: Dragon Ball, Naruto, One Piece. Heck, I'll throw Beyblade in there. All of those influence my writing a lot. And I know you were expecting me to say Pokemon, because who wouldn't say Pokemon? But let's be honest, Pokemon didn't have good writing. It was snarky, and I took a lot of that snarky, but a lot of anime was snarky, so I don't attribute that to Pokemon. Poor capture card? No, the captions are like an OBS thing. They just aren't working. Maybe I'll turn them off and turn it back on. Check, check. Captions? Yeah, captions are just broken. Okay. Well, at this point, we are going to move over into Chapter 3 of Dracula. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, the Dracula train rolls on. Oh, since the captions are broken, I will mention something that I think is very fun. Even if I have my mic muted, the captions will still pick up what I'm saying. So if I'm ever muted and the captions are running, you guys can just turn on the closed captions. That's a thing you can do. Don't abuse that power. A Dracula fact? Anna, please, hit us with your Drac fact. Drac facts, Drac facts. Boom, 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 boom. Drac facts, Drac facts. Dracula. The first major vampire work in popularity was based on Lord Byron because he was so annoying. Wasn't Lord Byron that guy who was stuffing everything he could? So his wife was like, I want our daughter to be nothing like him. So she made him go to school for math, and then she invented like the prototype for computers? Isn't that Lord Byron? Am I thinking of the right guy? He was such a twink, he helped invent computers? Yes, okay, yes, same Lord Byron. Okay, we're tracking. Lord Byron, the apparent time traveler who knew exactly what he had to do at all times to make sure all the cool stuff got made. I aspire to be just as annoying as Lord Byron. I really do. Because then I will have made a mark on this world so indelible that not even the greatest stain removers could erase my existence from the annals of history. Oh no! Oh no! Okay, maybe not that annoying. I do want women to like me. Mary Shelley to write Frankenstein just to get out of talking to him. Oh my gosh. Maybe not that annoying, but I could do with a little bit annoying. Now, is that two genres of fiction, or is that the same genre twice? Because, you know, Frankenstein and Dracula, they meet up a bunch. Kind of tells me they're in the same genre. If Universal had its way, they would be in the same universe, too, but that's a different story. Rip the Universal Horror Cinematic Universe. Which is the UHCU? Something like that? Romantic dark fiction. Well, with that, let's dive into some romantic dark fiction. When last we left the diary of Jonathan Harker, he had an extremely strange run-in with his host Count Dracula, where he did not appear in a mirror, became enraged at the sight of blood, and drew away once touching a crucifix around Jonathan's neck. Strange times in Transylvania indeed. In fact, nah, I was trying to work in a Blake Halsey high joke there, but I can't do it. I can't figure it out. It's there somewhere. Someone make the joke in chat. So we get to chapter 3. Jonathan Harker's journal continued. When I found that I was a prisoner, a sort of wild feeling came over me. I rushed up and down the stairs, trying every door and peering out of every window I could find. But after a little, the conviction of my helplessness overpowered all other feelings. When I look back after a few hours, I think I must have been mad for the time, for I behaved much as a rat does in a trap. When, however, the conviction had come to me that I was helpless, I sat down quietly as I have ever done anything in my life, and began to think over what was best to be done. I am thinking still, and as yet have come to no definite conclusion. Of only one thing I am certain: that it is no use making my ideas known to the Count. He knows well that I am imprisoned, as he has done it himself, and has doubtless his own motives for it. He would only deceive me if I trusted him fully with the facts. So far as I can see, my only plan will be to keep my knowledge and my fears to myself, and my eyes open. I am, I know, either being deceived like a baby by my own fears, or else I am in desperate straits. And if the latter be so, I need and shall need all my brains to get through. I had hardly come to this conclusion when I heard the great door below shut, and knew that the Count had returned. He did not come at once into the library, so I went cautiously to my own room, and found him making the bed. This was odd, but only confirmed what I had all along thought, that there were no servants in the house. When later I saw him through the chink of the hinges of the door, laying the table in the dining room, I was assured of it. For if he does himself all these menial offices, surely it is proof that there is no one else to do them. This gave me a fright, for if there is no one else in the castle, it must have been the Count himself who was the driver of the coach that brought me here. This is a terrible thought, for if so, what does it mean that he could control the wolves, as he did, by holding up only his hand in silence? How was it that all the people at Bistritz and on the coach had some terrible fear for me? What meant the giving of the crucifix, of the garlic, of the wild rose, of the mountain ash? Bless that good woman who had hung the crucifix round my neck! for it is a comfort and a strength to me whenever I touch it. It is odd that a thing which I have been taught to regard with disfavor and as idolatrous should in a time of loneliness and trouble be of help. Perhaps there is something in the essence of the thing itself, or that it is a medium, a tangible help in conveying memories of sympathy and comfort. Sometime, if it may be, I must examine this matter and try to make up my mind about it. In the meantime, I must find out all I can about Count Dracula, as it may help me to understand. Tonight he may talk of himself, if I turn the conversation that way. I must be very careful, however, not to awake his suspicion. Midnight. I've had a long talk with the Count. I asked him a few questions on Transylvanian history, and he warmed up to the subject wonderfully. In his speaking of things and people, and especially of battles, he spoke as if he had been present at them all. This he afterwards explained by saying that to a boyar the pride of his house and name is his own pride, that their glory is his glory, their fate is his fate. Whenever he spoke of his house, he always said we, and spoke almost in the plural, like a king. I wish I could put down exactly all he had said, for to me it was most fascinating. It seemed to have in it a whole history of the country. He grew excited as he spoke, and walked about the room, pulling on his great white mustache and grasping anything on which he laid his hands, as though he could crush it by main strength. One thing he said, which I shall put down as nearly as I can, for it tells in its way the story of his race. These Sezkels, I should say, have a right to be proud, for in our veins flow the blood of many brave races, who fought as the lion fights for lordship. Here, in the whirlpool of European races, the Utrecht tribe bore down from Iceland the fighting spirit which Thor and Woden gave them, which their berserkers displayed to such fell intent on the seaboards of Europe, aye, and of Asia and Africa too, till the peoples thought that the werewolves themselves had come. Here too, when they came, they found the Huns, whose warlike fury has swept the earth like a living flame, till the dying peoples held that in their veins ran the blood of those old riches, who, expelled from Scythia, had mated with the devils in the desert. Fools! Fools! What devil or what witch was ever so great as Attila, whose blood is in these veins? He held up his arms. Is it a wonder that we were a conquering race, that we were proud, that when the Magyar, the Lombard, the Avar, the Bulgar, or the Turk pulled his thousands on our frontiers, we drove them back? Is it strange that when Arpad and his legions swept through the Hungarian fatherland, he found us here when he reached the frontier, that the Honfoglaus was completed there, and when the Hungarian flood swept eastward, the Sezkels were claimed as kindred by the victorious Magyars, and to us for centuries was trusted the guarding of the frontier of Turkeyland. Aye, and more than that, endless duty of the frontier guard, for as the Turks say, water sleeps, and enemy is sleepless. Who more gladly than we will at the foreign nations receive the bloody sword, or at its warlike call flocked quicker to the standard of the king? When was redeemed that great shame of my nation, the shame of Kosovo, when the flags of the Wallach and the Magyar went down beneath the crescent? Who was it but one of my own race, who as the void crossed the Danube and beat the Turk on his own ground? This was a Dracula indeed. Woe was it that his own unworthy brother, when he had fallen, sold his people to the Turk and brought the shame of slavery on them? Was it not this Dracula, indeed, who inspired that other of his race, who again in a later age and again brought back his forces over the great river into Turkey land. Who, when he was beaten back, came again, and again, and again, though he had to come alone from the bloody field where his troops were being slaughtered, since he knew that he alone could ultimately triumph. They said that he thought only of himself. Bah! What good are peasants without a leader? There ends the war without a brain and a heart to conduct it. Again, when after the Battle of Moax, we threw off the Hungarian yoke, we of the Dracula blood were amongst their leaders, for our spirit would not brook that we were not free. Ah, young sir, the Sezkels, and the Dracula as their heart's blood, their brains and their swords, can boast a record that mushroom groves like the Habsburgs and the Romanovs can never reach. The warlike days are over. Blood is too precious a thing in these days of dishonorable peace, and the glories of the great races are as a tale that is told. It was by this time close on morning, and we went to bed. Memorandum: this diary seems horribly like the beginning of the Arabian Nights, for everything has to break off at cockcrow, or like the ghost of Hamlet's father. Gonna grab that wing helmet. Oh yeah, he is. He's a proud Dracula. Side note from the story, I really get what he's talking about. Old Appalachia boy. I really get it. Pride in your forefathers. Is it bad that Dracula is the most relatable character for me? The Veer of Gok is very real indeed. Anyway. The 12th of May. Let me begin with facts, bare, meager facts, verified by books and figures of which there can be no doubt. I must not confuse them with experiences, which will have to rest on my own observation, or my memory of them. Last evening, when the Count came from his room, he began asking me questions on legal matters and on doing the certain kinds of business. I had spent the day wearily over books, and simply to keep my mind occupied, went over some of the matters I had been examining at Lincoln's Inn. There was a certain method in the Count's inquiries, so I shall try to put them down in sequence. The knowledge may somehow or sometime be useful to me. First, he asked me if a man in England might have 2 solicitors or more. I told him he might have a dozen if he wished, but that it would not be wise to have more than 1 solicitor engaged in one transaction, as only one could act at a time, and that to change would be certain to militate against his interest. He seemed thoroughly to understand, and went on to ask if there would be any practical difficulty in having one man attend, say, to banking, and another look after shipping, in case local help were needed in a place far from the home of the banking solicitor. I asked him to explain more fully so that I might not by any chance mislead him, so he said, "I shall illustrate." What was that lisp? "I shall illustrate. Your friend and mine, Mr. Peter Hawkins, from under the shadow of your beautiful cathedral at Exeter, which is far from London, buys from me, through your good self, my place at London. Good! Now let me say here frankly, lest you should think it strange that I have sought the services of one so far from London, instead of some resident there, that my motive was that no local interest might be served, save my wish only. And as one of London residents might, perhaps, have some purpose or of himself or some friend to serve, I was thus afield, went to my agent, whose labours should be only to my interest. Now suppose I, who have much of affairs, wish to ship goods, say to Newcastle, or Durham, or Harwich, or Dover, might it not be that it could be done with more ease be done by consigning to one in these ports? I answered that certainly it would be most easy, but that we solicitors have a system of agency one for the other, so that local work could be done locally on instruction from any solicitor, so that the client, simply placing himself in the hands of one man, could have his wishes carried out by him without further trouble. But, he said, I could be at liberty to direct myself, is it not so? Of course, I replied, and such is often done by men of business who do not like the whole of their affairs to be known by any one person. Good, he said, and then went on to ask about the means of making consignments and the forms to be gone through, and of all sorts of difficulties which might arise, but by forethought could be guarded against. I explained to him all these things to the best of my ability, and he certainly left me under the impression that he would have made a wonderful solicitor, for there is nothing that he did not think of or foresee. For a man who was never in the country, and who did not evidently do much in the way of business, his knowledge and acumen were wonderful. When he had satisfied himself on these points of which he had spoken, and I had verified all as well as I could by the books available, he suddenly stood up and said, Have you written since your first letter to our friend, Mr. Peter Hawkins, or to any other? It was with some bitterness in my heart that I answered that I had not, that as yet I had not seen any opportunity of sending letters to anybody. Then write now, my young friend, he said, laying a heavy hand on my shoulder. Write to our friend and to any other, and say, if it will please you, that you shall stay with me until a month from now. Do you wish me to stay so long? I asked, for my heart grew cold at the thought. I desire it much. Nay, I will take no refusal. When your master, employer, what you will, engaged that someone could come on his behalf, it was understood that my needs only were to be consulted. I have not stinted. Is it not so? What could I do but bow acceptance? It was Mr. Hawkins' interest, not mine, and I had to think of him, not myself. And besides, while Count Dracula was speaking, there was that in his eyes and in his bearing which made me remember that I was a prisoner, and that if I wished it, I could have no choice. The Count saw his victory in my bow, and his mastery in the trouble of my face, for he began at once to use them, but in his smooth, resistless way. I pray you, my good friend, that you will not discourse of things other than business in your letters. It will doubtless please your friends to know that you are well, and you look homeward to them. Is it not so? As he spoke, he handed me 3 sheets of notepaper and 3 envelopes. They were all of the thinnest foreign post, and looking at them, then at him, and noticing his quiet smile with the sharp canine teeth lying over the red underlip, I understood as well as if he had spoken that I should be careful what I wrote, for he would be able to read it. So I determined to write only formal notes now, but to write fully to Mr. Hawkins in secret, and also to Mina, for to her I could write in shorthand, which would puzzle the Count if he did see it. When I had written my 2 letters, I sat quiet, reading a book, whilst the Count wrote several notes, referring as he wrote them to some books on his table. Then he took up my 2 and placed them with his own, and put by his writing materials, after which, the instant the door had closed behind him, I leaned over and looked at the letters, which were face down on the table. I felt no compunction in doing so, for under the circumstances I felt that I should protect myself in every way I could. One of the letters was directed to Samuel F. Billington, No. 7, The Crescent, Whitby. Another to Herr Lutner, Varna. The third was to Coates and Co., London, and the fourth to Herren Klopstock and Bilruth Bankers in Budapest. The second and fourth were unsealed. I was just about to have a look at them when I saw the door handle move. I sank back in my seat, having had just time to replace the letters as they had been, and to resume my book before the Count, holding still another letter in his hand, entered the room. He took up the letters on the table and stamped them carefully, and then turning to me said, "I trust you will forgive me, for I have much work to do in private this evening. You will, I hope, find all things as you wish." At the door he turned, and after a moment's pause said, "Let me advise you, my dear young friend, nay, let me warn you with all seriousness, that should you leave these rooms, you will not by chance go to sleep in any other part of the castle. It is old, and has many memories, and there are bad dreams for those who sleep unwisely. Be warned. Should sleep now or ever overcome you, or be like to do, then haste to your own chamber, or to these rooms, for your rest will then be safe. But if you are not careful in this respect, then—" He finished his speech in quite a gruesome way, for he motioned with his hands as if he were washing them. I quite understood. My only doubt as to whether any dream could be more terrible than the unnatural, horrible net and gloom of mystery which seemed to be closing around me. I endorse the last words written, but this time there is no doubt in question. I shall not fear to sleep in any place where he is not. I have placed the crucifix over the head of my bed. I imagine that my rest is thus freer from dreams, and there it shall remain. When he left me, I went to my room, and after a little while, not hearing any sound, I came out and went up the stone stair, to which I could look out towards the south. There was some sense of freedom in the vast expanse, inaccessible though it was to me, as compared with the narrow darkness of the country. Looking out on this, I felt that I was indeed in prison, and I seemed to want a breath of fresh air, though it were of the night. I am beginning to feel this nocturnal existence tell on me. It is destroying my nerve. I start at my own shadow, and am full of all sorts of horrible imaginings. God knows that there is ground for my terrible fear in this accursed place. I look out over the beautiful expanse, bathed in soft yellow moonlight, till it was almost as light as day. In the soft light the distant hills became melted, and the shadows in the valleys and gorges of velvety blackness. The mere beauty seemed to cheer me. There was peace and comfort in every breath I drew. As I leaned from the window, my eye was caught by something moving a story below me, and something to my left, where I imagined from the order of the rooms that the Count's own room must look out. The window at which I stood was tall and deep, stone-mullioned, and though weather-worn was still complete. But it was evidently many a day since the case had been there. I drew back behind the stonework and looked carefully out. Excuse me. What I saw was the Count's head coming out from the window. I did not see the face, but I knew the man by the neck and the movement of his back and arms. In any case, I could not mistake his hands, which I had so many opportunities for studying. I was at first interested and somewhat amused, for it is wonderful how small a matter will interest and amuse a man when he is a prisoner. But my very feelings changed to repulsion and terror when I saw the whole man slowly emerge from the window and began to crawl down the castle wall over that dreadly abyss, face down, with his cloak spreading out around him like great wings. At first I could not believe my eyes. I thought it was some trick of the moonlight, some weird effect of shadow, but I kept looking, and it could be no delusion. I saw the fingers and toes grasp the corners of the stones, worn clear of the mortar by the years of stress, and thus using every projection and inequality, move downward with considerable speed, just as a lizard moves along a wall. What manner of man is this, or what manner of creature is it in the semblance of a man? I feel the dread of this horrible place overpowering me. I am in fear. in awful fear, and there is no escape for me. I am encompassed about with terrors that I dare not think of. Dracula being an absolute weirdo crawling around, yeah, really puts a damper in the whole sexy Dracula thing. I will say, Jonathan had a good view of his ass there. That's all I'll say. The 15th of May. Once more, I have seen the Count go out in his lizard fashion. He moved downwards in a sidelong way, some 100 feet down and a good deal to the left. He vanished into some hole or window, and when his head had disappeared, I leaned out to try and see more, but without avail. The distance was too great to allow a proper angle of sight. I knew he had left the castle now, and thought to use the opportunity to explore more than I had dared to do as of yet. I went back to the room, and taking a lamp, tried all the doors. They were all locked, as I had expected, and the locks were comparatively new. But when I went down the stone stairs to the hall where I had entered originally, I found I could pull back the bolts easily enough and unhook the great chains. But the door was locked and the key was gone. The key must be in the Count's room. I must watch should his door be unlocked so that I may get it and escape. I went on to make a thorough examination of the various stairs and passages, and to try the doors that opened from them. One or two small doors near the hall were open, but there was nothing to see in them except old furniture, dusty with age and moth-eaten. At last, however, I found one door at the top of the stairway, which, though it seemed to be locked, gave a little under pressure. I tried it harder, and found that it was not really locked, but that the resistance came from the fact that the hinges had fallen somewhat, and the heavy door rested on the floor. Here was an opportunity which I might not have again, so I exerted myself, and with many efforts forced it back so that I could enter. I was now in a wing of the castle further to the right than the rooms I knew, and a story lower down. From the windows I could see that the suite of rooms lay along to the south of the castle, the windows of the end room looking out both west and south. On the latter side, as well to the former, there was a great precipice. The castle was built on the corner of a great rock, so that on 3 sides it was quite impregnable, and great windows were placed here where sling or bow or culverin could not reach, and consequently light and comfort, impossible to a position which had to be guarded, were secured. To the west was a great valley, and then rising far away, great jagged mountain fastness, rising peak on peak, the sheer rock studded with mountain ash and thorn, whose roots clung in cracks and crevices and crannies of the stone. This was evidently the portion of the castle occupied by the ladies in bygone days, for the furniture had more air of comfort than any I had seen. The windows were curtainless, and the yellow moonlight, flooding in through the diamond panes, enabled one to see even colors, whilst it softened the wealth of dust which lay over all, and disguised in some measure the ravages of time and the moth. My lamp seemed to be of little effect in the brilliant moonlight, but I was glad to have it with me, for there was a dread loneliness in the place which chilled my heart and made my nerves tremble. Still, it was better than living alone in the rooms which I had come to hate from the presence of the Count, and after trying to school my nerves a little, I found a soft quietude come over me. Here I am, sitting at a little oak table, where in old times possibly some fair lady sat to pen, with much thought and many blushes, her ill-spelt love-letter, and writing in my diary in shorthand all that has happened since I closed it last. It is 19th century, up to date with a vengeance. And yet, unless my senses deceive me, the old centuries had, and have, powers of their own which modernity cannot kill. Null, to answer your question, if he's basically a walking corpse, there can't be much of a butt to look at. Corpses do bloat. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. I probably shouldn't have said that. I should not, I feel like Hagrid half the time. I should not have said that. I should not have said that. Anna, what is that emote? I keep seeing you use it, and I have no idea what emotion you're trying to display. Mm. Okay, we're getting back to it. Later, the morning of the 16th of May, God preserve my sanity, for to this I am reduced. Safety and the assurance of safety are things of the past. Whilst I live on here, there is but one thing to hope for, that I may not go mad, if indeed I be not mad already. If I be sane, then surely it is maddening to think of all the foul things that work in this hateful place, and the Count is the least dreadful to me. That to him alone I can look for safety, even though this be only whilst I serve his purpose. Great God, merciful God! Let it be calm, for out of that way lies madness indeed. I begin to get new lights on certain things which have puzzled me. Up to now, I never quite knew what Shakespeare meant when he made Hamlet say, "My tablets, quick, my tablets, 'tis meet that I put it down." For now, feeling as though my own brain were unhinged, or as if the shock had come which must end its undoing, I turned to my diary for my repose. The habit of entering accurately must help to soothe me. The Count's mysterious warning frightened me at the time. It frightens me now more than when I think of it, for in future he has a fearful hold upon me. I shall fear to doubt what he may say. When I had written in my diary, and had fortunately replaced the book and pen in my pocket, I felt sleepy. The Count's warning came into my mind, but I took a pleasure in disobeying it. The sense of sleep was upon me, and with it the obstinacy which sleep brings as outrider. The soft moonlight soothed, and the wide expanse without gave a sense of freedom which refreshed me. I determined not to return tonight to the gloom-haunted rooms, but to sleep here, where of old ladies had sat and sung and lived sweet lives, whilst their gentle breasts were sad for their menfolk, away in the midst of remorseless wars. I drew a great couch out of its place near the corner, so that as I lay I could look at the lovely view to east and south, and unthinking of and uncaring for the dust, composed myself to sleep. I suppose I must have fallen asleep. I hope so, but I fear for all that followed was startlingly real. So real that now sitting here in the broad, full sunlight of the morning, I cannot in the least believe that it was all sleep. I was not alone. The room was the same, unchanged in any way since I came into it. I could see along the floor in the brilliant moonlight my own footsteps marked where I had disturbed the long accumulation of dust. In the moonlight opposite me were 3 young women, ladies by their dress and manner. I thought at the time that I must be dreaming when I saw them, for though the moonlight was behind them, they threw no shadow on the floor. They came close to me and looked at me for some time, and then whispered together. 2 were dark, and had high aquiline noses, like the Count, and great dark piercing eyes that seemed to be almost red when contrasted with the pale yellow moon. The other was fair as can be, with great wavy masses of golden hair and eyes like pale sapphires. I seemed, somehow, to know her face, and to know it in connection with some dreamy fear, but I could not recollect at the moment how or where. All 3 had brilliant white teeth that shone like pearls against the ruby of their voluptuous lips. There was something about them that made me uneasy, some longing, and at the same time some deadly fear. I felt in my heart a wicked, burning desire that they would kiss me with those red lips. It is not good to note this down, lest some day it should meet Mina's eyes and cause her pain, but it is the truth. They whispered together, and then all three laughed. Such a silvery musical laugh, but as hard as though the sound never could have come through the softness of human lips. It was like the intolerable, tingling sweetness of water glasses when played on by a cunning hand. The fair girl shook her head coquettishly, and the other two urged her on. One said, "Go on. You're first, and we shall follow. Yours is the right to begin." The other added, "He is young and strong. There are kisses for us all." I lay quiet, looking out under my eyelashes in an agony of delightful anticipation. The fair girl advanced and bent over me till I could feel the movement of her breath upon me. Sweet it was in one sense, honey sweet, and sent the same tingling through the nerves as her voice, but with a bitter underlying the sweet, a bitter offensiveness, as one smells in blood. I was afraid to raise my eyelids, but looked out and saw perfectly under the lashes. The girl went on her knees and bent over me, simply gloating. There was a deliberate voluptuousness which was both thrilling and repulsive as she arched her neck, and she actually licked her lips like an animal, till in the moonlight the moisture shining on the scarlet lips and on the red tongue as it lapped the white sharp teeth. Lower and lower went her head as her lips went below the range of my mouth and chin and seemed about to fasten on my throat. Then she paused, and I could hear the churning sound of her tongue as it licked her teeth and lips, and could feel the hot breath of my neck. Then the skin of my throat began to tingle, as one's flesh does when the hand that is to tickle it approaches nearer, nearer. I could feel the soft, shivering touch of the lips on the super-sensitive skin of my throat, and the hard dents of two sharp teeth just touching and pausing there. I closed my eyes in a languorous ecstasy and waited with beating heart. But at that instant, another sensation swept through me as quick as lightning. I was conscious of the presence of the Count, and as of him being as if lapped in a storm of fury. My eyes opened involuntarily as I saw his strong hand grasp the slender neck of the fair woman, and with giant's power draw it back. The blue eyes transformed with fury, the white teeth champing with rage, and the fair cheeks blazing red with passion. But the Count! Never did I imagine such wrath and fury, even to the demons of the pit. His eyes were positively blazing. The red light in them was lurid, as if the flames of hellfire blazed behind them. His face was deathly pale, and the lines of it were hard like drawn wires. The thick eyebrows that met over the nose now seemed like a heaving bar of white-hot metal. With a fierce sweep of his arm, he hurled the women from him, and then motioned to the others as though he were beating them back. It was the same imperious gesture that I had seen used to the wolves, in a voice which, though low and almost in a whisper, seemed to cut through the air and then ring round the room. He said, "How dare you touch him, any of you? How dare you cast eyes on him when I had forbidden it? Back, I tell you all! This man belongs to me! Beware of how you meddle with him, or you'll have to deal with me." The fair girl, with a laugh of ribald coquetry, turned to him. "You yourself have never loved! You never love!" On this the other women joined, and such a mirthless, hard, soulless laughter rang through the room that it almost made me faint to hear. It seemed like the pleasure of thieves. Then the Count turned, after looking at my face attentively, and said in a soft whisper, Yes, I too can love. You yourselves can tell it from the past. Is it not so? Well, now I promise you that when I am done with him, you shall kiss him at your will. Now go. Go! I must awaken him, for there's work to be done. Are we to have nothing tonight? Said one of them with a low laugh as she pointed to the bag which he had thrown upon the floor, and which moved as though there were something living inside it. For answer, he nodded his head. One of the women jumped forward and opened it. If my ears did not deceive me, there was a gasp and a low wail, as of a half-smothered child. The women closed round, and while I was aghast with horror, but as I looked, they disappeared, and with them the dreadful bag. There was no door near them, and they could not have passed without my noticing. They simply seemed to fade into the rays of the moonlight and pass out through the window, for I could see outside the dim, shadowy forms for a moment before they entirely faded away. Then the horror overcame me, and I sank down unconscious. And that is the end of Chapter 3. All the heebies, all the jeebies. Oh, good God! Ugh. I'm reading like a man possessed. Dracula's arrives doing the rendition of Mean Girls. No, they were doing Heathers. That was straight Heathers. Oh, I am not okay. It's 9:30. I have to go to bed after this. Why do I do this to myself? Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. Oh, every hair is standing up. Oh my God. See, I mentioned this before. That was the place. I've tried reading this book before. That was the place I couldn't push through. I couldn't read that. I couldn't. I never even saw that bit about the kid, because when she had the lips on the neck, I had to nope out of there. I noped out of that so hard. But now I've read it, and it's worse. It's somehow worse. I hate it. I hate it so much. It's so good, and I hate it. Ugh. Oh, that is no bueno. Oh, I do not feel very good after that. Oh man. I think I even did a Dumbledore thing where it said he whispered and I was screaming into the mic. Harry, did you put your name in the goblet of fire? Oh man, I am so glad I dosed my tea with like half a cup of honey. That made that so possible. Oh man. So yeah, Chapter 3 of Dracula. The death count is now 1. I feel like we should have a rolling death count for these now. The heebies are jabeezied. That is correct. Oh, man. Thank you, Null. I try. I try to find those weird pauses where, like, if someone was telling the story, they would be, like, pausing themselves. But it's weird because it's written as a diary. It's not written to be told to other people. So it makes it a little harder. Oh, man. Also, what was that whole thing with Dracula saying that he loved him? What was that? Am I the only one who picked up on that? What did it say? Let me reread that. Yes, I too can love. What? What's that about? Are we saying that Dracula's actually gay? Is that like part of the character? Or is he saying that he loves his wives so much that he will eventually give them a Harker? Like, what's the interpretation here? Is the interpretation that he does love his wives and will eventually give them a full-grown man? Or is the intention that he is somehow in love with Harker? Which is strange. I myself am very, like, to me, right? A vampire can't procreate, at least not in the way we would. So to me, the point of a Bride of Dracula has to be the companionship of it, which the wives he currently has seem to be really bratty and not good to hang out with. So maybe that's where the love is coming from. That's the hardest part to me is I can't imagine Dracula ever ever actually, trying to procreate. I can't imagine that happening. This isn't Twilight. It's not the intention, definitely, of Bram Stoker in this time in history. But I have to say it's the companionship aspect, because the whole story up to this point has been Dracula greatly enjoying his companionship, right? Like, it's a guy, and he can talk to this guy about things, about new things, and explain things. So if we're going to say that he's in love with Harker at all, then I would say it's that way. Let me look at the grammar of that sentence. I'm very curious now. See, the entire subject of this little quote seems to be towards the wives. Yes, I too can love. You yourselves can tell it from the past. Is it not so? That's all about the wives. Well, now I promise you, wives again, that when I am done with him, you shall kiss him at your will. Still about the wives. Now go, go. I must awaken him, for there is work to be done. That seems to me like he's actually telling the wives he loves them. He's not saying it about Harker. But it could be a double meaning kind of thing. Yeah, it could be a double meaning like Anna said. I loved you, and I love him, so back off. Exactly, that's the thing that makes me stop. He looks at John all gentle like. So that's super interesting. Because when was this written? 1892, I think it was? 1990... No, that can't be right. Release date cannot be... Bram Stoker did not write Dracula in 95. Oh, here's the actual copyright. 1897. In 1897, no one was writing major novels about gay people. Not even, like, evil gay people. The vampires and vampire were gay. Carmilla's gay. Maybe that is a recurring theme, It would be a sign of the times, actually, because Dracula is supposed to be a form of demon after Judas Iscariot. So him being gay would actually fit into that. Yeah, that makes sense. Not to say that Iscariot was gay, but rather that, we've already seen the Christian imagery throughout with the rosary and such. So the implication is that Dracula is proposed against the Christian God. Like, he can't touch the rosary, and I think later on there's something about a Catholic wafer. So making the vampires gay does in fact make sense if we're reading it through that lens. So then it becomes kind of a moral commentary, which is extremely interesting to find in Dracula. I will say, I wasn't expecting to find that at all in Dracula. I did not know. I've never heard of Carmilla before, actually. I never heard of Carmilla before. So I was not aware that, like, vampires have been historically extremely gay. Which, again, is a very interesting commentary, since vampires are historically extremely demonic. So we're kind of tying those two principles together, which is it's interesting. Also, while we're doing a little bit of critique here, I want to know your guys' thoughts. Do you think Harker was just horny for the ladies, or do you think that they had hypnotized him in some way? It all comes together. Title of Byron's sex tape. See, here's my thought, right? I think Harker was actually hypnotized all the way through. I think that when he was falling asleep, he was under that hypnosis. I think when he saw the ladies, because he didn't even recognize that the ladies showed up, they were just there. Yeah, Dracula, we know Dracula can hypnotize, so they should be able to as well. I think the whole thing was just hypnosis on their parts, which is, again, extremely interesting, because everything about them is described as voluptuous. Like, here's the thing, Anna, you're completely correct. Drac's wives are hotties. There is an implication here, an extremely interesting implication, which is that Dracula himself does not suck much blood. It seems to be implying that he's doing like the bare minimum, or that when he was turned into a vampire, that he was already this specimen that was almost corpse-like. Because the wives are described in every instance as extremely attractive and voluptuous, having good blush to them, having a good pinkness to them, which either implies one of two things. A, he took them when they were in the prime of their life, and he himself was turned into a vampire close to the end of his life, and they just stayed in the forms that they were. Or, the more interesting idea to me is that the wives of Dracula indulge on humans far more than Dracula himself does, which seems to imply that Dracula is in a bit of a fast. Mina Ussi is too powerful? I mean, Mina's gotta be a hell of a gal. Whew. Hell of a gal. See, if Drac is out... Here's my question. There's no question that Dracula could capture an adult, right? We see him come back in this chapter with a child. That tells me two things. One, he's wanting to limit how much blood the wives intake. And two, he either fed while he was out in the field, or fed on the child, which again limits the amount of blood the wives get, or three, didn't feed at all that night. Which again tells me that Dracula is in some sort of a fast, which is fascinating. Why would a vampire be restrained at all outside of Twilight? So I've got so many questions. I'm not sure what you mean by Bathory vibes. What are Bathory vibes? Eating the young for keeping young. That's a possibility. That's a possibility. Unless it's explicitly stated in the text, I don't want to go that far, because that's implying some more interesting things. Basically, vampires would be operating under you are what you eat, which would be extremely interesting. Okay, Bathory. Okay, now I know what you're talking about. Yeah. Yeah. It would be a well-known legend that he could have incorporated. But then it becomes interesting to me, because, like, if he eats dogs, like, did the bat thing come from him eating a bat? Is Dracula the real start of COVID? I don't know. Did he get wolves by eating a wolf? That doesn't make much sense to me. So I'm not sure how far we can take that principle. Unless it's explicitly stated later on in the book. What did I just say? Did I just say that Dracula made COVID? What did I just say? Oh man. We are getting to that point in the night where I am really popping off. Oh, geez. All right, well, I have to get going. I've got to get to work in the morning, of course. I've got to somehow shake off the heebie-jeebies from not getting kissed by a vampire. So yeah, lots for me to do tonight still. I will leave you all to it. Thank you all so much for stopping by. And if you enjoyed looking into doing a little bit of a dissection of the chapter afterward, we'll keep doing that. I don't know if you guys enjoyed it. Don't let the sexy wives bite. Anna, let me just state this clearly and for the record. If I ever get a sexy wife, bite. Let me just state that as clearly as I can for the record. But only in the context of marriage. Only in the context of marriage. All right. I'll see you guys on Tuesday. Anna, no ideas. Anna, no ideas. I just got out of a bad divorce. I don't want another one. Actually, let's find someone to raid. That'll help me get out my bejeebers. Let's go find a raid. Oh, baby. Let's go find a raid. Let's go find a raid. Oh, you can rock it, you can roll it, you can really start to hold it at the hop. Do the dance sensation that's sweeping the nation at the hop. Yeah. Something, something, something. Get your kicks at the hop. Let's go. Let's go to the hop. Oh, baby. Let's go to the hop. Oh, baby. Let's go to the hop. Oh, baby. Let's go to the hop. Let's go to the hop. All right, let's see what we got working with. We got someone playing Overwatch, someone playing DBD, someone doing something. I don't know what that game is, though. Just looking at the fellow tubers. Let's see. Got a couple people just chatting. Oh, here's a fun one. Someone called V2Burb is playing Observation Duty, which, if you haven't seen it, is this wonderfully creepy game where it's basically spot the difference, but in real time, and there's also ghosts and stuff. So we're gonna raid V2Burb. All right, I will. Hopefully, it takes me there this time, and I will see you guys all on Tuesday, and I'm gonna try to get all the chapters posted in case you guys want to go back or share it with friends or anything. I'm gonna try and get those posted. I know I'm a little behind on that, even though I'm not doing any editing. But let's go, V2Burb. Oh, it's not letting me raid. She must have raids turned off. It looks like a she. Okay, we'll find someone else. People need to turn on their raids. Are my raids on? I'll look at that later. Someone, no, that looks Japanese. I don't think you'd understand that. Yeah, I know. I was very excited for that. We'll go raid the Overwatch guy. And oh wait, no, that's not a VTuber. That's just a guy with an anime profile. All right. Well, we'll go to Mochi. Looks like she's watching something about Charlie, the internet Jesus. So we'll go see Mochi. Oh, come on. Can I just not raid people? What's going on? Does it think I don't have a high enough viewer count or something? All right. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to do an informal raid. We're going to do a dirty raid. I'm going to find the actual stream, and we're going to go there. I'm just going to put the link in chat, and that's how we're going to do this. All right, here we go. Link is getting hit up with the chat. All right, everyone go visit V2Burb and spam a raid emote so that they know what's going on. And I will see you guys on Tuesday. Good night.